Hello, my friends. It's me, Christiana Gaudet, your tarot fairy godmother. This class is how tarot cards work together. If you're here with us live, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you. I hope you have your cards because we'll have some exercises for you. If you're watching the replay, same. Get your cards. Whatever questions you have or whatever, put them in the comments. And let's enjoy this class together, either in real time or when you get a chance, either way. So, how tarot cards work together. This is one of those classes that I'm really excited to teach because it causes us to have to quantify something that we all do innately, naturally, organically, and without thinking about it. And if we can think about it and think about how we do it, we can teach one another and we can enhance our skills. Okay, so we recognize that if you're doing a reading that involves more than one card, if you're doing a single card reading, one card, this is not about that. But anything else, you're pulling a couple of cards, you're doing a spread, you're pulling a card and clarifying it, you're doing a dialogue with the cards, any of those things, spreads, free-form readings, dialogues with the cards, pulling clarifiers, you are looking at how the cards influence each other, how the cards change each other's behaviors. And that's what we're going to play with today. Jeannie, you can't get your cards because your cat is asleep on your lap. That is a very good excuse. You are excused from getting your cards. Peggy Lou, what's going on with you? I'm sorry you're not feeling well. I'm glad to see so many of you here, and a special shout out to the members and moderators. Really appreciate all of you. Now, we will do quite a few exercises throughout the course of our time together. So if you want to participate, please do. And I'll be asking you to tag your answers so that we can keep up, because there's a delay between the time I ask for something and the time you get it back. So that way it works out okay. All right. Hey, Raven Slack, thanks for being here. Good to see you. All right. So I'm going to jump right into it. And if you have questions about anything I'm saying at any time, or if you want to add to anything I'm saying, please do. All right, so the first things, right, are if you're doing any kind of reading other than a single card reading, you are concerned with how the cards speak to each other, how they modify each other, and how they work together, right? Number one. Number two, the way cards work together can change according to the techniques you're using. We're going to go over how cards work together in spreads, how cards work together when you're just doing a free form, let me pull some cards and see. How cards work together in dialogues. What's the difference between free form and dialogue? Free form is, let me put out this number of cards and this will be my reading. Dialogue is, let me ask a question, put out some cards. That inspires another question. Let me pick that up, shuffle it, ask that question, put out some cards. That inspires another question, rinse and repeat. That's a dialogue. So it's like multiple free forms in a row, right? One leading to the other. And clarifiers. A clarifying card, and this is such an interesting thing. I don't know when the concept of a clarifying card came to be. I don't know which tarot author first codified this concept. But I can tell you with pretty good assurance that when I first started learning tarot in the 80s, there was nothing called a clarifying card or a clarifier. Somewhere along the line, it became a thing. And now it's become so much of a thing that I think people don't really understand what it is. And it just becomes this thing where this is the card and this is the clarifier. And so I'll add, and people will tell me, this is what they've pulled. And I say, okay, why did you need to clarify this card? Oh, I didn't. I just pulled a clarifier. A clarifier is a card that you will choose to pull when you don't understand what a card is referring to. So you will pull a card specifically to clarify a card or a group of cards in a reading. And so that's another way that cards work together. Okay, so we're going to deal with how cards work together in these 4 circumstances. If you can think of other circumstances where cards also work together that don't fall into these 4 categories, let me know. All right. Here's everything we're going to be doing. You may or may not be able to read this from where you are. Later on, if you want to take a screenshot, you can. This is really to keep me on track more than anything else. Justine, typical millennial phenomenon. We overcomplicate everything, thinking we're taking shortcuts, right? Clarifying cards. Fair. Okay, so we use off clarifiers now. We use this technique of figuring out how the cards speak to each other and how the cards work together when we're reading a group of cards, as we discussed in any of these ways. And there's a couple of different ways we might do it. So we might interpret trends of distribution to gain additional information. We might also be focused in on a particular card and use the surrounding cards to enhance our understanding of that one card. So we're going to talk in both ways. And we've got a few people here who have introduced themselves. So let me just say hi to a few people here. DH, thanks for being a member in Connecticut with your Albano weight. That's perfect. So good to see all of you. Dina, I feel like I haven't seen you in forever in New York with the Wiser Tarot. That's what I'm working with today as well. Lisa Harmon, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member in Greenville, South Carolina with Tarot of the Witch's Garden. It's a brand new deck, isn't it? Isn't it? And so happy to see all of you. Thanks so much for being here. All right. So now I want to talk first about the idea that we're going to interpret trends of distribution to gain additional information. What do I even mean by that? Let's start with gain additional information. Did you know that if you look at trends of distribution, you can give information or get information for yourself from a group of cards without even interpreting a single card? Yeah. You can interpret the trends, and that gives additional information. That's bonus information, right? Because you're not getting it from any single card, you're getting it from the group. So this is how we get extra information. Hey, Leot, nice to see you. I feel like we haven't seen you in a while. Glad that you're here. All right, so now, trends of distribution. Lisa, if you say you love it as much as you do Hanson Roberts, that's a lot of love, my goodness. That's a lot. All right, what is trends of distribution and how do we interpret it? What is trends of distribution? Trends of distribution is looking at, do we have a predominance of a suit, of an element? Are all elements present? Do we have more than one of the same number or rank? Do we have a run of numbers within suit? What's the distribution of majors versus minors? Uprights versus reversed, if you're one who reads reversals. So we're going to talk about all of those things and how that would work. Justine, oh my gosh, I used to do this when I was first learning. I would tally the elements present and try to make sense of it that way. Yes, not instead of interpreting the cards, but to add additional information. To add additional information. Hey, Psyop, nice to see you. Working on some music right now, but wanted to drop by and say have a good stream. Glad you're here. Thanks so much. All right. So, let us, okay, this is a sample reading for no one in particular. I am going to set the reading, I'm going to set the intention that we are going to do a sample spread for a person named Polly. And I'm going to write this down, okay? This is for Polly, who doesn't exist. Polly is 32 years old, cisgender female. She's single. And she lives alone, and that's all we know about her, okay? Hey, Ani, nice to see you. Thanks for being here. So, we're going to put out the cards, and I'm going to squish them together more than I would in a regular reading so you could see them. And before we interpret, when we may not even interpret any cards, we're just looking for distribution, trends of distribution. I'm going to put out my 11-card Celtic Cross. I will say the position, number, and name as I do it in case you're trying to learn it or in case you want to follow it, okay? Card 1, who the querent is as a person at this time. Card 2, atmosphere surrounding the querent. Card 3, crossing card, challenge or obstacle. Card 4, foundation. Card 5, events of the recent past. Card 6, what's on your querent's mind. Card 7, events of the near future. Card 8, people around the querent. Excuse me. Card 9, querent's love life. Card 10, querent's hopes and fears. Card 11, final outcome. Now, we're going to look at trends. And the first thing you do before you go around counting and really looking, you're going to think about what trends do I notice right away without even having to look at it. And what I notice right away is Page of Swords followed by Knight of Swords. And how interesting that is and how one of them is reversed. That is interesting, and I'm going to want to say something about that. Now, there are only 2 major arcana cards. It's an 11-card spread, so that's like really normal. I wouldn't say anything about that. We'll talk about what we would say if there were no majors or if there were a lot of majors, but I'd say nothing here. But look at this. Look at this. If you think about a grid, if you think about, like, cards are rectangular, right? Unless they're circles, but even then, they operate, when you put them in a spread, they can kind of operate on a grid. So if you're doing like a Celtic Cross, I like to look at what's on the same grid line. And like here, these 2 cards are on the same grid line, and they're the only 2 majors. So that part is important. That part is important. I would pay attention to that. So the number of majors, not as important, but the fact that the only 2 here are on the same grid line, that is important. All right. So Jeannie says, we got a lot of cups and swords, and she's right. And that's what she saw first. And she is absolutely right. We have, and now's when I start to count. We have 1, 2, 3 cups, 1, 2, 3, 4 swords, so overwhelming swords. The other 2 suits are represented, pentacles and wands, so earth and fire. But we're heavy air here, and the Fool is air as well. So that leans us way into the air. And this is earth, so that makes that a little heavier. So that makes fire the least present element here, okay? And the 1 fire card is reversed, and it's right in the center. It's the atmosphere. So what are we going to say about Polly? Before we interpret a single card, just by looking at these trends, what are we going to say? Justine says the elements are well distributed, minus the pentacles. Are they, though? Because fire, too. I'm going to say they're not well distributed. I'm going to say they're all present. But I'm going to argue there's a difference between being all present and being well distributed. They're all present, which does show a balance, but we're leaning heavy into air, is the way I would see it. And the answer to your question is, Jill, no, there's not. If I could, I would, but I can't, so I won't. All right. And so Sarah sees something. Sarah sees, oh, very interesting. I never would have seen this, but it's brilliant. Look at this. The Fool and the Seven of Swords are making eye contact. Oh my gosh. So that's brilliant right there. That's brilliant. And that's a trend of distribution too. Like when you look at the images, what are the images doing in the graphic layout that you've chosen? I never would have seen that, but where could you go with that? This is at the foundation. It may be that this person, and it's interesting because the Fool can be so much about like being trusting. But then this, what do we trust? What do we not trust? I'm going to say that our dear friend Polly here, because of what Sarah said, I'm going to say we have a serious ongoing trust issue. Is it trusting yourself, trusting your journey, trusting other people? That's what we're going to have to figure out, but that's huge. And clearly here, there is definitely something about trusting yourselves, trusting the journey, and trusting the process, right? Because of that. So there it is. And Justine said, we got the Two of Swords right there too. And isn't it interesting? So here's another interesting trend. Notice this. On both sides, so this is another grid. Both sides of the timeline here, past and future, both twos. That's pretty interesting. So we're going to play with that. Raven suggests, the Fool and the Hermit facing exactly opposite directions. And that's interesting too, because the Hermit is in the position having to do with other people. So Hermit reversed, having to do with other people. We're going to think that this person is fairly social, that Polly is social. But it is interesting because what if there's a direction here where we're going to school and we need to study, but we're too social? So you see, there's a lot here. And, oh, look at you, Justine, right here in the axis. You're absolutely right. We have 2 sevens. And so what do we see with 7? We see that internal journey. It's emotional. It's mental. It's that journey of trusting yourself, trusting your choices, but can you, should you? So we see a lot of the same themes coming up in different ways before we interpret a single card. Sarah, with the Page and the Knight of Swords, it's kind of like they're in a jousting battle with the swords touching. So Polly's hopes and outcomes are directly battling. Yeah, absolutely. Right. So there's an example of how you can do that just very seamlessly before you get into your card-by-card interpretations. You've already got such an interesting sense of things, right? Okay, good example. So now, let's go back and let's talk about, with numbers and rank, and you understand when I say rank, that's about your court cards. So if you have more than one page, if you have more than one knight, all of that. If you have more than one of the same number, over time, you're going to develop a sense of what those numbers mean to you. And it may be more than one thing, like say aces. To me, aces can be new beginnings, but they can also be getting to the basic, what's most important, the essential thing. It can be getting to the source, the origin point. which is different than new beginning, right? Or starting a journey, but it can be any of those things. If I see a bunch of aces in a spread, one of those things is going to come to my mind, and I'm going to say, it feels like it feels like you're going to be starting some new journeys here. You might be thinking about starting something new. Or, I feel like this is all about figuring out what's most important. And I might not even say, the reason I'm saying this is because of all the aces. I might, if I was speaking with someone who's interested, but a lot of the people I talk to are not interested in why I'm saying it. They're just interested in the information. So you can do that either way. You can say, the fact that there are this many of these tells me this. Or you can just say, this is what I see. And so in your studies, you want to have a good handle, ace through king, on what you're going to say if there's a predominance of that number or rank. Now, if you have 3 and 1 is missing, 3 sevens and 1's missing, for example, you're going to look at the one that's missing and figure out why it's not there and if it should be. And if we have to go seek that thing or not, or if it's good that it's not there, what does it mean, right? What does it mean that it's not there? So, what about runs? What about a run? Like suppose you saw anywhere in a spread the 9 of cups, the 10 of cups, and the 8 of cups. And it didn't have to be together. It could be anywhere in the spread, in any position. These could be in any position. You know what I would do? I would make note of the fact they were there, and I would see that story. I would interpret the cards within their positions, but I would additionally see the story. And what is the story here? This could be the story of walking away from something so that you can find the thing you want more. It could be the story, if we go this way, of thinking that you have something that's really happy, but it turns out not to be. I am not a proponent of always telling the story with an ascending number. Now, if you're not sure which way to tell the story, you could say, I'm seeing a story here about the search for happiness. That's fair, right? And Justine says, I love seeing runs. It's helpful to clarify which direction the situation is moving in. Sure. Would you call this a run or no? You would call it a run of 3. It's got to be within suit. Why do we call it runs? I know it from playing gin rummy back in the day. And it may not be a term that is typically used with tarot. It's used in playing gin rummy. So I've just kind of borrowed it from that and brought it to tarot. I don't know if other people use it that way, but in terms of card playing, it's fair. Right, makes you think of poker, right? They have runs in poker too. Right. Okay. So numbers and rank, trends of numbers and rank, all right? Now, what about majors versus minors? What about majors versus minors? If you see a lot of majors versus if you see no majors. Now, and again, this is one that has come about over the time that I've been working with the cards. Don't know where it came from, and I don't particularly like it. It is the idea that major arcana speak to the things you cannot change, and minor arcana speak to the things you can. Excuse me, while I hit myself over the head with a bottle, I hate that so freaking much. I hate it. I hate it with all of my heart. So clearly, I don't use it. What do I use? If there's a lot of majors, I'm going to say pay attention. Look for big changes. The decisions you make now really matter. You may be doing some internal soul searching. You may be having big life events going on or planning big life events. So stay present, pay attention. But it's also going to be which of the majors are showing up. It's going to be different if it's like the Empress and the High Priestess and the Chariot versus the Sun and the Star and the World. It's going to be different, right? So you're going to want to think about which septenary the majors come from. Because if all the majors there are from one specific septenary, that's going to matter too. Septenaries, major arcana, cards 1 through 7, Magician through Chariot. These are the lessons of the material world. How to live on the planet. That's your first septenary. Second septenary, cards 8 through 14, Strength, unless it's Justice, depending on what deck you're working with, through Temperance. These are like your lessons of emotional growth. And the final, 15 through 21, these are your lessons of spiritual enlightenment. So if it happens that all of the majors are from one of those three, and you can see that, that's going to matter too. You're going to pay attention to that. All right. What if there's no majors at all? Then I would say now is not a time to think about the big things or the big picture. One foot in front of the other, get her done. Take care of business a bit at a time. That's how I'd see it most likely. If you're a person who reads reversals, what if you have a predominance of reversals? What if more than 50% of your cards are reversed? What if all of them are reversed? I would interpret the cards in the position as you normally would with their reversals, but I would say something more. This is your additional information. It might be that you're feeling very unsure. It might be that you're feeling like your feet aren't on the ground. You're not grounded. It might be that your world is turned upside down. So, how to get extra information, and this is what gives us those nuanced tarot readings with a lot of detail, right? Okay. Now, something that Sarah had us doing that other people were doing too that I didn't even, well, I guess it could come under repetitive image, is like, what do you see in the cards? Do you see the same images repeating? Do you see, Sarah saw how the people were looking at each other. That's a thing, how the people are looking at each other. Oh, Jeannie, I remember when I kept having reversals, the pandemic was coming in. Yeah, and that really, as a performance artist, that really turned your life right upside down, didn't it? So, yeah. So just looking at the images and what you see, but also color. Now, there are some decks that just have a color theme, and so that negates that. But if you're working with a deck that has a lot of different colors in it, if you see a predominance of a color, interpret that, and interpret that any way you want to. Any way you want to. Many of you have heard the story I'm about to tell next, but it's a good story, so I'm going to tell it again. And that is, years ago, a person comes into my office, put out that Celtic cross. I can't figure out what to say at all. Not at all. But I noticed that all the cards are predominantly blue. And it wasn't a predominantly blue deck. And I said, that's how I started. It was my great opening line. I am sorry, I'm not getting much. All I see is blue. Turns out her boss's name was Blue, and she was there to talk about her boss. So the cards will find a way to give you the information if you just let it. Right? So there it is. Now, what about cards with similar meanings? And here comes our first exercise. Hashtag same. Hashtag same. That's easy. Which cards do you see that have similar meanings, that if they came up together in a spread, they came up together, or, somewhere, not even next to each other, but somewhere in a spread, in the same spread, they would strengthen each other. Cards of similar meaning strengthen each other. What are cards that you see that have similar meanings? Tag it same and tell me, and I will look for some myself. Cards that have similar meanings. Oh, Justine, you'd never heard the blue story. Ani, nice to see you. I did a reading with the Wild Unknown, and all the black and white, generally negative cards were upright, and all the generally positive rainbow cards were reversed, right? There you go. There you go. So we're looking for cards that are similar, that have similar messages. What about if you saw in the same spread these two cards? Is there a similar message there? Ani, Lovers and Two of Cups. Right, those would strengthen each other, certainly. What else we got? What other cards might strengthen each other? What about these two cards? And it might be more than two. I'm just finding two because it's easy. We might see Celebration. Leot, 10 of Cups and 10 of Pentacles, exactly. So if you see cards that naturally strengthen each other, that meaning is going to be enhanced. That becomes a stronger meaning in the reading. Now, tag it not, as in not the same. What we're looking for is opposites. What are cards that are opposites to you? I mean, certainly like 10 of Swords and 10 of Cups could certainly feel opposite to me. What about what are other? Okay, so Jeannie Mnuchin, same. The Hermit and the 9 of Pentacles, yeah, absolutely yes. Amy Foreman, similar. Empress and Queen of Pentacles, yes. Betty, 6 of Swords and 8 of Cups, I'm pretty sure you're going for similar there, and I would agree, yes, absolutely. So if you see these kinds of things, they would make the meaning stronger. Whatever similar meaning you see between those cards, it's stronger. That becomes a stronger message. Okay, Amy Foreman, not. 2 of Cups and 5 of Swords. Heck yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. So what do you do when you see these opposites? That may create a tension. You may see a tension there. Should I stay or should I go? Or there are some areas of life that are happy and some areas of life that are not. Or wow, this is really confusing. It might be that in different moments we're feeling different ways. Lisa Harmon, similar. 4 of Cups and 5 of Cups, absolutely. Ani, not similar. Sun and 10 of Wands. Yeah, that feels very opposite. Claire C, nice to see you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member. 4 of Pentacles and Ace of Wands. Opposite, maybe? And Leah, 4 of Cups and Hanged Man. I'm thinking you're looking at similar there. You're not tagging them, so you're making me guess, but that's a good game too. So I see those as similar. So what about the Devil and the 8 of Swords? Yeah, I see those similar. Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. Sarah, opposite. 9 of Wands and 10 of Swords. Right, because in one we've given up and in the other we're still fighting. Absolutely, yes. So yeah, so these are ways that when you're looking at a group of cards, doesn't matter if it's a spread, doesn't matter if it's, I'm going to pull these 6 cards, doesn't matter if it's, these are the 5 cards I've pulled in a dialogue. If you're seeing these things in a group of cards, this is ways to get more information. And in this case, in these cases, the cards work together to give you additional information. Information that you get above and beyond what you're going to get from interpreting the cards. See what I'm saying? Opposite. Gotcha, Claire. Yeah, I agree. 4 of Pentacles and Ace of Wands are very opposite. I would absolutely agree with that. All right. So that was fun. Now, what happens when we're using surrounding cards to enhance a single card? First of all, when would that happen? Well, it might happen if you're doing a spread where the spread is like, this is my answer, And these 4 cards are the extraneous information you need to know. Do you ever do spreads like that? Some people do. It might be that you're doing a regular spread and one card just calls to you and it feels big, it pulls at you, and you don't know quite what to do with it. Or it might be you did a single card reading and now you're lost. Those are some times I can think of where you're going to use other cards to help you understand a single card. Okay, so Genie Mnuchin, not 5 of Pentacles and 10 of Pentacles. Oh my gosh, that's perfect. Yes, 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 yes. And I think, that's a fun exercise. It's a good exercise just to think about the cards that way. Now, okay, so surrounding cards to enhance a single card. If you're working with a group of cards, you're going to use this because there's a card you don't understand or because there's a card that pulls at you. Now, this is the time where I say to you that one way of allowing cards to help you, allowing surrounding cards to enhance a card meeting, one way of doing this is using elemental dignities. And I'm looking right at you, Sarah, because I know you're a Crowley reader. Elemental dignities is a technique used predominantly by Crowley readers, and it is used instead of reversal. So if you're a person who reads elemental dignities, you probably don't read reversals. I mean, there's no tarot police. You could do both. But I think for most readers, it's one or the other. And if you're a Crowley reader, it's more likely that you use elemental dignities. If you are a Waite reader, it's more likely that you don't. But I also notice if you're European, it's more likely you use elemental dignities. I don't know what happened, but a lot of American readers, myself included, just never went there. When a lot of my UK, a lot of my European friends did. So anyone here use elemental dignities? I can't teach them. I don't have a clue. I know they exist. And I can tell you that the theory is, Justine, I think this is always what kept me from studying elemental dignities. Which part? The part that you're American? The part that I don't? The part that you're a Waite reader? Which part? So I can give you the theory behind elemental dignities, but I can't tell you how they work because I've never figured it out. The idea is that elements are either friends, enemies, or neutral with each other. So for example, fire and air are friends. Fire and water are enemies. Fire and earth are neutral. Friends strengthen each other. Enemies diminish each other. Neutral does nothing. So that's how that works, but I've never actually used them, right? So just know it exists. And if you're interested in learning elemental dignities, Google on it. There's some great videos here on YouTube that can teach you how to do it if you're interested. But they could not teach me because I tried. Whatever. Justine, I've always wanted to incorporate reversals into how I interpret the cards when it comes to the dignities and what it means for the reading. That throws a wrench into it for me. Yeah, I mean, I am proof positive you don't need elemental dignities. But I would also say that if you are predominantly a Crowley reader, you should, just because it's the tradition. But if you're not, and even if you are, I mean, whatever, there's no should. You can do whatever you want. I just think in a class of how the cards work together, I would be remiss if I did not mention this technique. Even though I can't teach it to you, it's important to know that this is a technique that exists. Fair? I'm not, Leah, I'm not well versed enough to go into it that fully, but obviously fire and water, right? Obviously. Okay, so let's move on. The question is, how will one card, well, let's talk about this for a minute. How will one card inform another? How will one card enhance another? How will a group of cards enhance another? Some of it is just going to be tone. For example, suppose you're doing a spread, much like the spread we were doing before for our fictitious Polly. And in that spread, you got your 11 cards out, and every one of those cards is like unicorn dust positive, right? You've got the 10 of Pentacles, the 10 of Cups, the Sun, the Star. All your favorite cards are here, but right in the middle is the Tower. So it's a Tower you're really looking at like, oh, what are you doing here? But right away, answer me this. Are you going to be more concerned or less concerned that the Tower is there when you see that all the surrounding cards are lovely and pretty and happy? I'm going to say that the lovely, pretty, happy cards take some of the sting away from the Tower. And I'm also going to say the opposite is also true. Suppose you have some super positive card and it's surrounded by the 3 of Swords, the 9 of Swords, the 10 of Swords, and all the other murky, mucky stuff that we don't love. That is going to take some of the joy away from that card, right? So tone. The cards, when you're looking at one card and you're looking at the surrounding cards to see how the surrounding cards impact that one card, part of what we're looking for is tone. Does that make sense? What is the tone? Now, what about when we do clarifiers? And we're going to do a couple of different exercises. So if you have your cards, get shuffled. It's time for some exercises. If you're not doing exercises with us tonight, you can come back and replay and do exercises when you have a minute. So let's start playing with clarifiers. You can use clarifiers in any kind of a reading. I think it is best to use clarifiers per card. Because if it's like, I've done this 11 card reading and I don't understand the reading, I'm pretty sure that putting more cards on top of the 11 cards you already don't understand is not going to help you. If you've got 11 cards out and you don't understand the reading, it's time to call me or any other tarot friend and let's work it out together. Don't try to clarify it past that. Use clarifiers for a card that you do not understand. It could be a card that is part of your 5 card, 7 card, 10 card, 15 card spread. It could be a card that is there in your group of cards that you pulled randomly. It could be the single card that you pulled for your single card reading. But we're looking at the one card that you don't understand, and that's what you're going to clarify. Before we do that, Sarah, yes. In the Thoth deck, I don't really read reversals, right, but the elements are super important. Thoth also takes into account the elemental relationship with the planets and astrological aspects. There you go. So it's a whole thing, right? And it's a good thing. So here's the exercise. Ask no question. Ask no question and simply pull one card for yourself. One card. Ask no question. One card for yourself. The card I pulled for myself is the 6 of Cups. Now, the first thing you're going to do is just see, what does that card say to you in this moment? Take a moment, breathe with it. What does it say to you in this moment? Now, for me, I have a very specific meaning for this card because this was a stalker card for me at a very specific time in my life. So this has a very specific meaning. Your card may have a specific meaning for you or not. Now, if you do not know what area of life this card is speaking to for you, or if you do not know what this card is trying to say to you, you're going to look at the card and you're going to say, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to tell me? And pull one more card. and see how that informs or changes your interpretation. Now, you can also do it if you're very sure you know what this card is. You can say, is there anything else you need to tell me? And do it that way. So, go ahead and do that. No, you're not asking, and you're asking no question at all. Ask no question. Ask no question. Ask no question. Pull one card. Interpret it whatever way it makes sense, and then see what question you have. If the question is, I don't understand you at all, then you ask, are you here about a particular area of my life? Like if it's the tower, I'm going to want to know tower where? Tower my job? Tower my health? Tower my car? Tower where? So the clarifier, you may be asking, where in my life are you? Or it may be that this card has sparked a particular question, and you can ask that question and have that be a clarifier as well. So you're now looking at two cards. How does the second card you pulled inform the first? Tell us a story. Let me know how it works. Don't just tell me the card you got. Tell me how that worked for you, what that told you. What that told you. Okay, Jeannie, don't like or understand the clarifier. What was your clarifier? What was your original card? Let me know. Let me know. Now, suppose, here we go. Here's a few things. So Dina started with the 9 of Swords and then got the 8 of Pentacles, interprets it as get grounded is what I took from the second card. Fine, but I would also say with that, so 9 of Swords. Dina, whatever is worrying you or upsetting you, the 8 of Pentacles tells you that you, over time, have proven historic data that you can learn and grow and fix and figure out whatever you need to. So whatever you're worried about, you don't need to worry. Because that 8 of Pentacles tells you you'll work your way through and you'll figure it out. Okay. Claire, the second card told you who the first card was affecting, so it was very specific. Okay, so Leah, you started with the Hierophant, and then you got 2 queens. First one queen, then the other. So right away, I would be asking, I would wonder if those queens are specific people. I want to know who the queens are. If they're specific people, if they're you or parts of you, if it's about nurturing truth versus creativity. I look at that like the Hierophant can be all about this is what you're supposed to do. But then we've got the Queen of Swords who's like, well, this is the right way to do it. And we've got the Queen of Wands who's like, yeah, but I want to do it the creative way. And I'm wondering if there's something here, Leah, about making room for more than one approach in your life, is what I wonder there. Okay. Jeannie, so the 3 of Cups, which you interpreted being about your daughter and brother coming, clarifies the 7 of Swords. So that could be a couple of things. Yes, but it could also be, what if the 3 of Cups isn't about that at all? What if the 3 of Cups is about other social circumstances around you where you don't feel as much trust, where you're not trusting the situation or trusting the people or necessarily knowing how to navigate? What if the 7 of Swords comes up to say, yeah, no, it's not about that. It's about this other thing where you do have issues of trust, perhaps. Could be. Because that's the other thing that the clarifier will do. If you're like, well, I interpret this card to be about this. Okay, great, fine. Clarifier comes up and may take you in a whole different direction, either instead of or in addition to, which again is ways that we get more information. All right. Okay. So Lisa, first card, the Moon, second card, the Ten of Cups. Work on your spiritual stuff, not the money. Sure. You know what else I would get from that too is loved ones or family members or ancestors in spirit there to help you. I would get something there too. Oh, interesting. So Jill, you saw the Eight of Pentacles as working on your writing revisions. And then for the clarifier, you got the Ace of Swords, which you see as new ideas. Yes, but I would also see that as confirmation that, this is writing, because the Ace of Swords is so much about writing, right? So much. So that's so perfect. So DH, 10 of Swords, and then you pulled two cards, the Seven of Cups and the Seven of Swords. So interesting that you got two sevens. And you see it as you're done with this way of thinking. Imagine what it is you want and go for it, which I love. Let me add to it for you, though. If you start with the 10 of Swords and you're like, oh my gosh, what is this? What is this? And then we've got, well, it's the Seven of Cups and it's the Seven of Swords. Could it just be that you're not trusting yourself? Could this be a whole thing about trusting yourself more and recognizing how much power you have to manifest what you want, which actually, now that I'm saying it, I realize is exactly what you said. I'm just saying it in different words, but it's exactly that, right? Right? Okay, Raven Slack. Knight of Wands. Oh, clarified by the Ace of Wands. Now that's powerful. Now see, for me, and your interpretation is your interpretation. I'm not trying to negate your interpretation. I would see it as something completely different, though. I would see those two things as so much in line, because the Knight of Wands is pursuing that creativity and the Ace of Wands is that fire. So, it would come with the same thing of, oh my gosh, it is all about pursuing creativity. Oh my gosh, so powerful. So powerful. So there's so much here. So much here. Gina, you liked that. Okay. So, what is the clarifier doing here? The clarifier may be confirming your first interpretation or not. May negate your first interpretation or may add to your first interpretation. So that's pretty cool, right? Okay, let's do one more exercise. You're going to pull 3 cards at random. Again, no question. Sarah, I like this process of pulling a card with no specific question, just letting intuition guide the message. When I'm reading for myself, I would say that's the majority of what I do. I will very rarely ask a question, actually, yeah. Unless I have a question, in which case I will, indeed, most certainly ask it, of course. All right, so 3 cards, no particular order, no question, at random. Let's make them be all right side up, because why be more complicated? Now, from these 3 cards, yours, not mine, I'm just doing mine as an example, choose the one that feels most important and put it in the middle. So I'm going to take the Major Arcana and I'm going to put it in the middle. Interpret the card that you've put in the middle for yourself right now in whatever way you want. And now take the 2 other cards and use them to enhance that interpretation. So for example, the first message I took from this is really about just kind of big decision making that I have in my life, right? Big decision making coming up. I take this to say, my angels are with me, sending love and helping me. And B, this decision would change certain things I'm doing, on, the way I'm doing them day to day. Don't have to do it yet. I'm formulating big decisions. I'm guided by loved ones in spirit, and I'm fine doing things exactly the way I'm doing until it's time to bring those things into action. So, there it is. So, there's your exercise. Let me know how that goes. And while we're doing that, I'm just going to read through some of the earlier exercises. Karen Hendershot, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member. 7 of Wands and then the 6 of Swords. Keep working, keep moving forward. I love that. But with that 7 of Wands, because that 7 of Wands is a very defensive energy, 6 of Swords is much smoother. So there is a sense that things are going to get smoother, really. That it doesn't have to be so defensive in the long run. Justine, my first card was the Sun reversed, then the Knight of Swords reversed. The first Sun reversed, that feels like how I'm feeling in general right now. Knight of Swords reversed, signifying that I'm doing it myself. Well, the thing is, I think I would see the Knight of Swords reversed to kind of be, when you're clear about what you want and where you want to go, then you're going to feel happier. And until you know what you want and where you want to go, you may not be 100% happy, and that's okay. Give yourself space to figure that out. That Knight of Swords will turn itself around when the time is right. And when it does, the Sun will turn itself around too. That's where I would get. Okay, Sarah gets the 6 of Cups. I'm just making stuff up as I go along, apparently. Sarah gets the 7 of Cups reversed, and then the 5 of Swords reversed. And you see that as lacking financial goals. Clarifier says you need to make amends with your fear of money. I like that. That actually makes sense to me. I kind of like that. Okay. Leot, the death mic drop. Alrighty then. Justine. Cards I chose, King of Cups reversed. Supporting cards, Sun, Hangman reversed. Worried about my overbearingness in relationships, needing to accept that I must say what I need to say. Fair enough. Raven Slack, 8 of Wands jumped out at me. Other cards are World first and then the Temperance after. And in this technique, it almost doesn't really matter which is which. You got the middle and you've got the supports. Doesn't matter which is which. But it feels like, that's kind of huge, Raven, if you think about it. That is a huge, huge reading. Where there's a lot going on, there's a lot coming and a lot that you don't know. But if you just trust that process, man, huge things are possible for you. Oh my gosh, that is so huge. Oh, Justine, that worked for you. Okay. Very good. Good stuff. Thank you so much. Oh, Leon, I'm so sorry to hear about the loss of your mom. That makes sense. Oh, Jill, you got 3 9s. My goodness. I love that. I love you reading there. All right. We are in our last 2 minutes. So, questions, comments, now's the time. I really appreciate y'all playing with me here. Again, this was, just a huge exercise for me in trying to quantify and teach something I do very innately. And maybe you have been doing this very innately as well. And maybe you do it the same as I do, and maybe you do it differently. There's no right, there's no wrong. With tarot, it's all about results. If you're getting the results, then you're doing it right. However, the things that I've taught in this class could help you get even more information, even more nuance, even better readings. So play with it and enjoy it. Let's check out just a few more comments before we say goodbye. Oh, Jeannie, 3 of Wands in the middle, finding how to be successful with creativity. Queen of Pentacles speaks to being alone and tending the garden. Knight of Pentacles, moving forward, work and income. It's perfect. DH, Sun, success is already yours. Let your light shine. 9 of Cups, give thanks for all of your blessings. 5 of Wands, don't let the little things annoy you. And even let those annoying little things spur you even to more. That can bring you to more, because what's after the 5 of Wands, the 6 of Wands, even more success. Beautiful, beautiful. Claire C., 4 of Wands, flanked by the 3 of Pentacles and the 10 of Wands. I worked hard for a good retirement and can finally enjoy it. Oh my gosh. Card is the Tower. Someone had to get the Tower, and in fact, Lisa did, supported by the Empress and the Ace of Pentacles. I love that. Wow. So, oh my gosh. Such powerful stuff coming out of this. I hope you all doing these powerful readings. Write it down. Take a picture of it. So good. Friends, I want to thank you so much for your kind words. Remember, I am available for private instruction and mentorship. We do have classes at Card and Craft Academy. I'll be doing some more Zoom classes soon. And remember, if you like learning from me, you're going to love learning at StarCon, STAARCON.com. StarCon tickets are available. Justine wants a round 2 in the future. Yeah, absolutely. And I want to thank all of you for being part of this community. Special shout out to the members, the moderators, to everyone for being here. Really appreciate you. Please do like this video. If you have not subscribed, please do. Oh, Dana, thanks for being here. 7 of Wands, having things coming at you. The Hierophant decides on distribution of that energy, allowing me to give more equally to different areas. Right. You're the Hierophant. You get to choose. You're the authority. You can draw those boundaries. That's a beautiful thing. My friends, thank you so very much. I'll look forward to seeing you. I am available for readings. Please feel free to reach out. You can go to my website, ChristianaGaudet.com, and book directly or reach out to me directly. Happy to see you. Thanks so much. Take really good care. I appreciate you all.